Welcome to Peter and Ruffy Sports Week here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Tottenham coach and former Rangers defender Ugo Ehiogu has died at aged 44. Head-to-head for a place in the Cup final, McInnes versus Lennon and Caixinha against Rodgers. And down south, Conte versus Pochettino and Guardiola takes on Wenger. Yeah, that will dominate our thoughts on the programme all the way through this next hour. FA Cup semi-finals down south and here in Scotland as well. We start with the sad news, Ruffy. Ugo Ehiogu had a short period at Rangers, one of those guys that was lucky enough to score in an Old Firm game, and a winning goal at that, and a good one too. But an absolute tragedy. I mean, collapsed at Tottenham's training, and then 24 hours later sadly lost his life with a heart attack. I mean, a real body blow to the whole football world, and so many people paying tributes to him.
And quite rightly so. You know, obviously he's been in the game for a wee while, obviously took up the coaching, and it's just horrendous when you hear something like that happening, not just to him, to be anybody that age, for your life to be taken away. First thing you think of was obviously his family and kids and everything, but you know, an absolute tragedy in the game.
Yep, of course the big money move, a long association with Aston Villa and of course Middlesbrough too.
A good career, probably deserved more caps than they actually received, Peter. Very strong player, physically strong, given that extraordinary fallibility of dying at 44. It's so deeply and tragically ironic, because he was physically fit, he was strong, he was powerful, and it seems terrible that we were talking about him in the past tense. We talked to him, of course, when he was up here on Rangers duty, and a real gentleman, very quietly spoken, very polite, not like his on-pitch persona, which was really strong and physical. So what can you say? Just a tragedy.
Yep, absolutely. Our thoughts and condolences to his family at this time, and I'm sure Rangers will offer a fitting tribute over the course of the weekend. Of course, football will dominate our thoughts. Rangers against Celtic in the Scottish Cup semi-final. Prior to that will be Hibs against Aberdeen. We will discuss that very shortly. We'll hear from Pedro Caixinha in the next couple of minutes, the Rangers manager. Just got to pay tribute to the Scotland under-19 learning disability squad. They defeated the Republic of Ireland by 2-0 today, thanks to Gary McDonald for sending us this fantastic photograph of the guys. They defeated Northern Ireland earlier in the week, and this is the second year running they've won the home championships, Ruffy. You know, fantastic. Absolutely delighted to feature the guys on the show.
Yeah, you can see the smile on everybody's face. You know, it's fantastic. You know, as soon as you get, doesn't matter where you are, what level you're playing at, you know, you pull on that Scotland jersey and it means something to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, if you're getting up this morning, here are a few of the headlines. Here's one I haven't seen in a long while. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. It's basically kept Pedro Caixinha saying to Brendan Rodgers, well, if you want to see my team, as long as you show me yours well ahead of time, then you know, we can get ready for the battle on Sunday. I'm not too sure that's going to happen this time around. What about the Sun and their back page headline? Well, this is a link for Rangers. A possible move for Graham Dorrans, bringing him back to Scotland. Whether that happens or not, only time will tell. And of course, there's also a boost at the sidebar in the Daily Mail for Aberdeen. Niall McGinn all set to declare himself fit for tomorrow's clash against Hibs. And there's a huge picture there of Marcus Rashford. He looks as if he's a real deal. He certainly set Man United on their way to a semi-final of the Europa League. We'll look at the draw a little later on in the programme. But all roads lead to Hampden. Of course, the big one is on the Sunday. Rangers against Celtic. We all know what happened the last time these two sides locked horns at Hampden. It was Ronnie Dyla and Mark Warburton. On that occasion, it took penalty kicks to separate them. What's the difference this time around, Hugh?
Well, I think the difference this time around, it's been a huge turbulent difference, because at first, you know, a couple of months ago, you would have made Celtic very, very strong favourites, and they will go into the game very strong favourites. But I think Rangers will have taken great comfort from the 1-1 draw at Celtic Park. and the victories, particularly over Aberdeen away and the comfortable one against Thistle. So there's a slightly different landscape to this game than there would have been, you know, under Mark Warburton, for instance. I mean, Brendan Rodgers has talked about it, you know, already, that he believes that Caixinha's teams are more pragmatic, but that I think he means to get the ball forward quicker. So I would still expect Celtic to be they are favourites, and I still expect Celtic to win. But I think the sort of dynamic of this game has turned quite slightly over the last couple of weeks.
Are we about to see a different style of game, Ruffy? Because obviously Mark Warburton liked his players to try and keep possession, try and move it about. Pedro Caixinha, the suggestion is that maybe he's a little bit more direct in his approach, and that could be something slightly different for Celtic to try and put up with.
No, I think you can have a lot of possession and you can go sideways with possession. You also go forward as well. It looks as if the Rangers team are more direct. There seem to be a wee bit more pace going forward. Obviously Celtic will have to deal with that. We all know that in the long term there is a gap there, but I think it's now been proved in a one-off game there isn't a gap, or not a massive gap. You know, on the day, if you take your chances and your players turn up, you know, you've got a chance. But as we all know, that I would think that Celtic have got more match winners than Rangers. But in the last game, they particularly didn't turn up, and that's why Rangers got a draw.
It's exactly that, because where the gap is shown is on league points. That's where you judge a gap. But on a game-by-game basis, you saw last week, Ross County got a draw against Celtic last week.
Yeah, and of course Celtic have, you'll not be surprised to hear, appealed. So Scott Brown is able to play in the match, despite that red card last week in the match that Hugh mentioned against Ross County. Pedro Caixinha, the Rangers manager, no qualms with that decision.
We will do the same. I mean, if I was having one player, that it was one player that is coming player normally, or is on the 11 or on the 18, and you really want to count on him, and if I have conditions to appeal, I will do the same. So they are doing the right decision. They are taking the right decision.
Well, I spotted him last night leaving Firhill at the under-17s Glasgow Cup final. Ruffy and Brendan Rodgers obviously was also there to see the youngsters in action. That was just a little taster for Sunday's match. Where can Rangers look to exploit Celtic this time around? We all know Kenny Miller. Is there other areas where you think they can excel?
Well, again, I think we have to wait and see what kind of formation he goes with. I think they will realise it. I think Celtic are the better side. I think it'll be trying to hit Celtic in the break. I think it'll be sucking up all the pressure and then trying to get forward to the Miller in particular, you know, who can hurt you on the break, and that's what I think they'll try and do. I think they'll work on set pieces, corners, which Celtic seem to be a wee bit vulnerable with the now. Balls coming into the box, not defending them properly. But again, as we all know, it's how the game starts for me is the important one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really crucial. You know, they've got somebody like Wycombe on the team. People forgetting the whole bombast of the last game. Wycombe had really two great chances to score for Rangers. One at a crucial time to put Rangers. You know, he's 1-on-1 with Craig Gordon at nothing each. So these are things that are huge in matches. Change the whole narrative of a match. Change the whole plot of a match.
Yeah, and of course it's one of those matches that Pedro Caixinha gave us his insight into sampling this derby for the first time.
This is a worldwide game. I mean, you don't need, of course, Leave It is different, but you don't need to have the fans talking to you about what this game represents, because in football everybody knows an Old Firm match. So I already live it, but from outside, so we know what to expect. I already been in Upton in an empty stadium when I was in the pro license. So I think it's going to be a fantastic environment. It's going to be a fantastic football match. And we need to be prepared to play it and to win it. That's all.
Yeah, of course, he did sample the last game, but Graham Murty was there to take charge of that last Old Firm encounter.
Yes, but I mean, he will know is when he walks through that tunnel and he sees the stadium full with both sets of fans and full voice. It'll be a tremendous experience for him, and I think he will have to take a wee bit of a deep breath, like the players. First 5-10 minutes, you have to make the right decisions, and I think he'll take it all in. He seems to be that kind of guy that'll just hand it up.
Yeah, and of course you'll have to get used to the fact that you'll think all hell is let loose, and that's just for a throw-in, Ruffy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's like, you know. We always say the first tackle is always important, you know, and obviously people on the park have their own jobs to do, and it'll be interesting to see if Scott Brown is sort of just singled out as the man to sort of you know, set about first, because he sets the standard with Celtic.
Okay, talking of Celtic, we will discuss the Celtic camp. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers and get his thoughts on this derby as he goes in search of the treble. That and lots more to come after this quick break. Join us if you can. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and as ever, our boot-room guest on a Friday is Hugh McDonald. We heard from Pedro Caixinha in the Rangers camp ahead of Sunday's derby. What about Celtic? Well, of course, there are a number of players who will be eager to keep the unbeaten record intact, and the manager himself going for the treble. Moussa Dembele, incidentally, has mentioned that he doesn't feel as if the draw was a warning for Celtic. You know, a lot of people are looking into it and saying Rangers will get a huge lift from that draw, that they can actually, over a cup game, take Celtic out.
Yeah, they will. You know, I think on the 1-1 games, even the game at Ibrox when they scored first, I think large parts of that first half they looked well in control until obviously he scored. Dembele scored just before half time. Rangers were in 1-0 up and feeling confident, but as I said before, in the second half, the big players turned up. The Sinclairs turned up. They turned it on. They never, in the last game, I think Scott Sinclair probably had his worst game in a Celtic jersey, and that's what Rangers will be hoping will happen again, that these big players don't get the chance to shine. But no, I think Rangers in a one-off game will go in with confidence, and as you said there, you know, it depends on how the game goes. In Old Firm games, you know, things turn very quickly. You can be up 1 minute and then down. I always think the first 15 minutes are always really important, and I think Rangers have started better than Celtic in the last 3 games.
Yeah, of course, a lot has been made of the match officials for this one. Don Robertson was involved last week in that glaring error with Alex Schalk winning the penalty, which in the end got Ross County a point against Celtic, and he's back involved with the match officials, although not the main man in the middle for this semi-final. Brendan Rodgers has mentioned that he doesn't really feel as if Don Robertson has to approach the Celtic manager for an apology. It's someone else.
Don Robertson doesn't have to ring me. He doesn't have to say anything to me. John did that. All I would say to Don Robertson is make sure you apologise to Eric Sviatchenko, because it wasn't a penalty. But I'm sure he will learn from it. You know, we've seen enough decisions as well in the Champions League over the course of the last week or so that have been poor decisions as well. So it happens. What we got to try and do is help referees make the best possible decisions. But in circumstances like that, you have to get that right, or else you lose the trust of the players.
I wouldn't like there to be a major mistake in this semi-final coming out. Any semi-final, it's gut-wrenching for players to stomach it.
Yeah, and it's and we've had a pretty garish history of mistakes. You know, I mean, Ronnie Dyla was in the paper this week, you know, with the mistake, the Inverness Caledonian Thistle one, Josh Meekins handling on the line, etc., etc. I hope there's no mistakes either. I mean, and I hope it's just that, you know, it's just a tempestuous, normal Rangers Celtic match. What I really hope is that the surface is good, because I think these are two teams who like to pass the ball about, and I'd like to think they get the surface to do that on Sunday and Saturday, of course, as well, for the other semi-final.
Yeah, that's a key point, Ruffy, because Gus McPherson was telling us it's taken a fair battering. I hope it's in good nick.
Yeah, I'm sure the groundsmen there will be working overtime. The weather's been reasonable, you know, hot and cold, which always helps. But yeah, we don't want you know, teams to be complaining about, oh, we never played well because the surface wasn't great. Just get on with it, and you've got players there with ability. It just shows how good you are.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, it's always good to get a little insight into some of the fans who were going to the game, watching it intently as well, hoping their side comes out on top. We caught up with the Rangers fan, Robert Armstrong, just to get his feelings on this match. I had a chat with him a little earlier on and asked him, first of all, if he, like many of his fellow fans, go into this semi-final with confidence.
I think it's the first Old Firm tie this season where there's been a genuine optimism, certainly with myself, but amongst the fans and even the club. What Caixinha's been doing in such a short space of time has impressed me. It's very visible on the park, his ethics and what how he wants the game to be played is being shown on the park. And I think there's a new mentality that's been attached to that with Rangers. I think the way that we performed at Pittodrie and we were able to soak up the pressure and then go and kill Aberdeen off with the 3 goals in the 10 minutes. And last week against very much informed Partick Thistle. So definitely there's an optimism and positivity with some real substance attached to it ahead of this game.
Yeah, you mentioned there about soaking up the pressure against Aberdeen. Do you think he might have to replicate that at Hampden before picking his moment?
I believe so. I think personnel-wise, we need to be realistic as to where we are this season against Celtic, and unfortunately the league table doesn't lie. But I've been impressed at what he's been doing tactically, especially the last 2-3 games. 3 clean sheets. That involves having 2 youngsters in the side. Having 2 midfielders that are screening the defence as well. It's making it difficult for teams to penetrate our defence. I think our positioning when we've not had the ball during attacking phases for the opposition's been great. So going back to your first question, that gives me a wee bit of optimism as well. I think if we're difficult, we're not conceding silly goals anymore. And it gives us a chance. And I think the forward players, Hinman, Miller, even Waghorn are now expressing themselves more on the park, and they don't seem like they're under some sort of shackle of trying to do things that they're not able to do, and that gives us a real chance for Sunday's game.
And I've got to ask you, Sunday, it can go either way. Give us your prediction.
I think Rangers could win it 1-0. I think it's either going to be one of those games where it's going to be very tight and one goal's going to win the game, or it could go the other way, like we had at the beginning of the season. I'm more optimistic, but we've got to be realistic as to where we are with the personnel and the squad this season. So I'll go for a 1-0 Rangers. Maybe Kenny Miller, who knows?
Yeah. Maybe Kenny Miller, who knows? He's got a track record for it, Kenny Miller. Certainly couldn't discount it. Great to hear from Robert there as well, and he did mention to me all his family would be watching, so his prediction is 1-0. Do you agree with that? At Peter and Ruffy, give us your thoughts on that. What about the Celtic camp? I caught up with Celtic fan Brian Gilmore and asked him, of course, predicting these games sometimes can be fraught with danger.
It's the famous thing that people say where form goes out the window for derby games. In general, it doesn't. In general, the better team wins games of football, and Celtic, as the league table demonstrates, are the better team. So I go in with quite a confidence that we should be having of top against a team who's 35 odd points behind, whatever it is.
Yeah, and of course, it's a cup match. The last time these two met in the semi-final, it didn't quite go according to plan. What's the difference, do you think, between, first of all, the Celtic side and the team that Pedro Caixinha is going to put out?
This season, Celtic is very different to that cup game, playing with a lot more confidence, a manager who imbues a greater level of confidence in the players. Rangers were on a high then. A manager playing in the Championship, winning every week, so they were on an emotional high, mental high. Under Caixinha, I've not seen that much of them. Got a friend who's a good Rangers fan, and from what he's saying, I think they're in that role that often happens when you get a new manager wanting a different style of play, that you can have peaks and troughs even within 90 minutes of the style of performance. I think it was against Motherwell where he sent me a text at half-time saying it was worse than the McCoist days. And then, obviously, he also sent me a text after the victory at Pittodrie saying, I note the Alamo's on Channel 4 later today. I think I've already watched the Alamo. I can't believe that we've managed to score 3 goals, but that's what happens when you've got a solid defence. So from what he was saying, it sounds like at least Coutinho's done something with the defence to make it a bit more robust. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, and of course, 2 things that seem to be preying on every Celtic fan's mind. How important is the treble and going undefeated all through the season?
The treble's the key. You don't win trebles every year. I think in my lifetime this would be the 2nd treble of Celtic. So trebles are pretty rare. That's far more important than the unbeaten. The unbeaten didn't really bother me until the last couple of weeks. We're now only 7 games away from being able to complete the unbeaten. We saw the reaction when Rangers beat Celtic 1-1 at Celtic Park. So the biggest reason why I would be unhappy to lose the unbeaten run is just because I couldn't be bothered with the fuss that would be made about Celtic losing 1 game. So unbeaten run's not as important. As one of my friends is saying, if Celtic win every game that they play in Glasgow between now and the end of the season, it means we've won a treble.
Yeah, and I've got to ask you then, give us your prediction, Brian.
3-0 Celtic.
There you are. Confident man, Ruffy.
Yes, and the Celtic supporters want the treble. The Rangers supporters don't want them to have the treble. That's the added bit for this game at the weekend.
Okay, join us after the break when we'll look at the semi-final, which kicks off early tomorrow. We'll hear from Derek McInnes and Neil Lennon ahead of the big one at Hampden. It's Hibernian against Aberdeen next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Hugh McDonald is our regular guest on a Friday. Delighted to have Hugh with us on Sports Week. Of course, we were out and about last night, Ruffy. Certainly enjoyed it on STV, the Glasgow Cup final. We need to do more of that.
It was great. It was great seeing all the young kids on show. We don't get a chance to see it often enough, and certainly there was, in both sides, 2 or 3 players that you would think could maybe make it to the top.
You pick one, who would you pick?
Oh, I like the wee boy Henderson early on. I think he was good. I think the boy, was it Caffrey, he got injured. I think when he went off, they struggled a wee bit. But big boy at the back, Finlayson, centre-half. We're always screaming about young centre-halves, and I thought he had a good game as well.
Okay, I certainly enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of the City of Glasgow Cup final. Celtic won it by 2-1. Whether that's going to be the same case at the weekend, you can give us your view at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and Facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. We're on tomorrow from 2 o'clock. Join us if you can. We'll keep you up to date with all the goals as they hit the back of the net in the lower leagues tomorrow. We'll get reaction from Hampden. For Hibs against Aberdeen, it's something that you're pinching yourself when you say it. It's the cup holders, Hibs, trying to hold on to the trophy, you.
I know, remarkable story. I was up Easter Road yesterday interviewing Leanne Dempster, the Chief Executive, for my piece in tomorrow's paper. The excitement up there is building ahead of this. It's really strange, isn't it, that a championship team in a Scottish Cup semi-final can be looked on as a wee bonus to their season. And that's the way it almost seems, isn't it? Because they've achieved the real objective, financially and every other way, professionally, are going up into the top division. And I think this game, I mean, Aberdeen are by far the 2nd best team in Scotland, we know that. But I think Hibs could maybe spring a wee surprise tomorrow.
I think last year, the debate was, what would Hibs take, the league or the cup? And this year now it will be disappointment if they lose tomorrow, but they've got the league just sitting there, so it's not going to be a disastrous season. Whatever happens, it's going to be a great season, and there will be huge celebrations at the end of the season. But if they were to get to another final, wow, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah, it would indeed be unbelievable. Here's a look ahead from both managers to this semi-final.
There's a confidence about them. There's a belief. They've got goals in them from different areas. There's a consistency of team selection as well, the consistency of performance.
And they've got a lot of good players. And we probably view them like a top 6 side, ourselves, when you look at them and the experience a player they've got.
If they'd have played as well this season as they did last season, they might have won the league. That's how good they've been. And like Celtic can, raise the bar, but to finish second to them and split the Old Firm is pretty impressive from an Aberdeen point of view.
And the other thing is they've been used to winning their own in their own league. So when you've got good players who are feeling confident themselves, it can make it that bit more of a challenge. But no, they're facing my team, which is also playing well at the minute.
I think the good thing we have in our favour is that the lads have had recent experience at Hampden. I think they might have been there 3 or 4 times last season. That'll stand them in good stead as well.
This will be our 5th semi-final since we've been here at Aberdeen. We've won 2 and lost 2. So totally contrast of how you feel afterwards. And it's all about getting through it. It's all about getting through. If you want to play well.
They've played brilliantly in the competition so far. They've kept some great performances for that. So I'm hoping they can replicate that on Saturday.
And cup winning teams are always well remembered and well received here at Aberdeen, and it's important that we try and put ourselves in a position to win it.
Okay, we accept that Aberdeen are the favourites going into the match against the cup holders. Match winners. I always look at teams and think, is there someone there that can do something a wee bit out of the ordinary, something different?
Yeah, as far as Hibs is concerned, it's obviously Cummins and McGinn. They're the 2 main for me. And Aberdeen, obviously Hayes. If Niall McGinn plays, he'll be a big player. But I keep saying that, although Derek's saying there that they've had wins and losses, the really, really big ones, the big players haven't turned up. They've went along there, their bags of confidence, and for whatever reason, they don't turn up. And that's what Hibs will be hoping, that the big players don't, because they certainly have got match winners on their side.
I think the pressure's on Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen's season, honestly, will be defined by this. I think people will be, people are rightly saying, great. I think they're almost certain to finish second, Peter. So I think people say that's a great achievement, splitting Rangers and Celtic. But the record in the cup, and the record in the cups hasn't been good enough of late. Since the demise of Rangers, they've won a League Cup. That's what they've won. In the same period where St Johnstone, for example, to name what one team's won a Scottish Cup. So I think they really have to get to the final here. I think the pressure's on. And it's how Aberdeen react to that pressure tomorrow that's crucial. Hibs have got quality in that team. Hibs, from the back forward, I think McGregor and Ambrose at the back have been, excellent for Hibs this season. Bartley's been good in midfield. McGinn's a Scottish internationalist, one of the best players in Scotland this year. And up front, they've got that wannabe wrestler, the cum dog. The cum dog millionaire, James Cummins. So that I think he's. I think they've got a chance tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think you would have pulled the same stunt in your Hibs squad, Robbie, without Gordon Ray or Jackie McNamara battering him.
No, but it's good in a cup week. You need a bit of light-heartedness because there's going to be a lot of tension about the place. And obviously you need somebody like that, just to release it and everybody have a laugh. It goes on viral and everything, but supporters get involved in it as well. But he better have his head screwed on, because if he tries that penalty kick, I'm sure
Lenny would slam him, slam him.
I'm sure there'll be something sorted there. But no, I think he's learnt his lesson.
Yeah, of course, one particular Hibs player sampled the delight of not only being a Hibs fan, but lifting the silverware as well. And he's backed that up this season by scoring a couple of goals last week that helped seal the championship. I'm talking, of course, about Darren McGregor.
It's huge. I mean, I think we waited 114 years to get it, so we're in no hurry to give it back, but we're well aware that the difficulties that Aberdeen will pose. I think they're strong all over the pitch, and they've got a great manager, and they'll go in as favourites, rightly so, but we love the underdog tag, and I think we've proven that in the last couple of years that we perform well in the big game, so we're looking forward to it.
He's been a tremendous example to everyone. I mean, a fan, he not only wins the cup, but I think Hibs got it so right in a PR exercise going round the whole of as many Lothian schools as they possibly could, and he was relishing it.
I think they took it to 150,000 people. That's in schools and in clubs and community centres. He's a topper, that young man, because he has had to work his way from junior football. He wasn't getting a game at Cowdenbeath. I was talking to Liam Buchanan, who played with him at Cowdenbeath, saying, the guy, even when he wasn't getting a game there, he was working hard. Rangers said, go. And he's ended up with a dream. you know, being at Hibs, the club that he loves. So he's a real example. If any kids out there, just keep going, keep searching for your dream, and sometimes it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, give us your prediction on this one.
On the Hibs one, obviously I've got a wee bit of loyalties lying a bit, so I'm going to stick with my loyalties and go 1-0 Hibs.
1-0 Hibs. Okay. I don't know if you've quite grasped what the programme is all about, Ruffy.
No, I don't mind admitting that I have loyalties.
No, I don't mind you admitting you've got loyalties either, but you're supposed to give an informed view looking at the two teams and thinking, instead of waving a Hibs scarf, who do you think will win?
I think Hibs will win 1-0.
The only thing we can say here is thank God Hibs weren't playing Partick Thistle tomorrow. Because we'd be here until next lunchtime trying to get one out of it.
Honestly.
If you're asking me, Peter, I've got sneaking suspicions for Hibs as well.
Yeah?
I think there's an awful lot of pressure on Aberdeen tomorrow. I don't think there's the same amount of pressure on Hibs. And it all depends. If Hibs relax into this, I think they've got the capability of winning this game, but I'll go Hibs 2-1.
Hibs to win it by 2-1 as well. Of course, you couldn't bet against them. This is the double they're going for, Ruffy. I'm just looking at, I think 5-6 Aberdeen on this one, and 3-1 Hibs.
Yeah, I think that's because obviously Aberdeen are the second in the top league, and there should be a gap. But we keep discussing it in a one-off game. How the game goes, again, same as the other game, you know, how you start the game. If you get a wee break, you get an early goal, it can change the whole vision of the whole game. But I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll be tense. I'm not predicting an absolute fantastic game to watch, but at the end of the day, the team that wins won't be bothered.
Okay, there you are. I tried my best to, get a kind of a logical answer out of him, but it was just in the Hibs Hall of Fame, so I'm going to say Hibs. 10-1 for Hibs to win 1-0. Do you agree with Ruffy on this? He's got a smile on his face. Whether it all pans out that way, I'm sure Aberdeen will have something to say about it. Coming up in the next part of the programme, we'll hear from Ian McGarry. He'll give us all things English football. We'll look at the FA Cup semi-finals and talk about Spurs possibly going on to win the league. Can they stop Chelsea? That's up next. Here's a wee question for you. Did you get that one, Ruffy?
I was 10 years out. Yeah. I'm getting closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goal scorers?
On that day? I didn't research it that deeply. Can you remember who scored the goals in it?
Was that not the night when the Argentinians scored?
No, that's
another cup.
That's 1981.
It was 81, I was obviously.
Yeah, this one was against, I think it was Nottingham Forest, denied Brian Clough.
Was it an own goal in extra time?
I can't
Des Walker?
It may well have been. It's annoying that I can't remember that, but nevertheless, I think they beat Arsenal in the semi-final.
They did. They beat them in Gaza.
Free kick. Yeah, and it was
from their different postcode.
It was an absolute cracker. We're going to talk FA Cup with our man down south, Ian McGarry, in just a moment. What about the Championship, Ruffy? There's some tasty games that we'll be featuring tomorrow as well. Morton Ayr United, Dundee United, St Mirren, Dunfermline, Falkirk and Queen of the South against Dumbarton. Suddenly, I think we were looking at St Mirren for long and weary times, wondering about the bottom end. Now it's Ayr United and Dumbarton we're looking at, and possibly Wraith Rovers in the mix at some point.
Yeah, Ayr United was hoping that Morton still are in a wee bit of free fall just now, but you would think with Morton with home advantage they would manage to get that one, but we've already discussed that St Mirren have some really hard games coming up, so I think it's still going to be, even after tomorrow, I still think it's going to be congested down there, and any one of four could go.
Yeah, I think Ayr United need some tomorrow though, just even for their own, their own kind of confidence and momentum, and I think they'll look at Morton now the way that people wouldn't have looked at Morton 3 or 4 weeks ago. They'll look at Morton and say, we could go down there and get something. A big game for them tomorrow.
It's a strange thing. I think Morton's down tools. I think the boys have actually thought to themselves, okay, let's gear up for the playoffs.
No, I don't think it's the fact they've down tools. I just think they've done so well. Yeah. They're just expectations. I mean, nobody thought they were going to be where they are. And I think the players themselves are putting a right good shift to get themselves there. And them, like anybody else, will just be feeling the stress as well. But they maybe be able to relax now, because I think they will be in that top 4.
I think so too.
Okay, so Morton United.
Well, I think the home advantage will just sneak that one.
I think Ayr United could get a point.
Point of that one. What about Dundee United, St Mirren?
I think it's another one that, you know, a draw is a prediction. I think that could be a draw as well.
I'll go for a drop.
Yep, Dunfermline, Falkirk.
Dunfermline.
I think it could be an away win. I think Falkirk gets stronger as the season goes on.
And Queen of the South, Dumbarton, huge for Stevie Aitken's side.
Absolutely huge as well. I may just go for Queen of the South because I'm a great admirer of I'm a great admirer of both managers actually, but I'm a great admirer of what Gary Naismith has done with Queen of the South since he joined.
Okay, join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock. We'll keep you up to date with all the goals across all 4 divisions in Scotland. We were talking about the Scottish Cup semi-finals. We're going to switch our attention to the English FA Cup semi-finals. Man City, Arsenal, and one other mouth-watering one is Chelsea against Spurs. I caught up with Ian McGarry a little earlier on. First point, could Spurs catch Chelsea in the league as well?
Tell you what, it's been a very interesting couple of weeks, Peter, that's for sure. I mean, 10 points was the gap just 2 weeks ago. And since then, Chelsea have lost, as you know, 2-2, one against Crystal Palace, against Manchester United last Sunday. Now it's 4 points. It's quite incredible. And 18-1 would have been the odds you got on Spurs winning the league at the start of the season. Now, I know because I've got those odds. So I'm quite happy the way things are going so far. Very interesting scenario this weekend. We've got 2 teams playing a cup semi-final at Wembley who are contesting also the league title, and we can absolutely say with certainty the league title is now a contest. Do you know when the last time this happened, Peter?
Well, what, Spurs in there? I mean, the double winning side of 61.
1999. Arsenal, 4 points ahead of Manchester United. They played the FA Cup semi-final at Villa Park. I think someone called Ryan Giggs might have scored quite a good goal, and then exposed an even better chest rug. And what happened? United went on to do the treble, including European Cup, and that incredible night in Barcelona. So there's a precedent here for what happened. Now, if Spurs beat Chelsea at Wembley tomorrow, then I think psychologically that's a big boost to them. I think the only thing we're missing, obviously, is a showdown between the 2 teams in the league. We won't see them play each other. Those games have passed. Spurs have got arguably a harder run in. They've got to play Arsenal and they've got to play Manchester United. But you've got to think that Manchester United and Jose Mourinho would want Spurs to win rather than Chelsea, the league that is. So look, it's fascinating. It's suddenly become exciting again. And in a way, even though it's an FA Cup semi-final weekend, and you've got obviously Manchester City and Arsenal on Sunday as well, no one feels like they're missing out, because that contest between the top 2 in the Premier League at Wembley is going to be absolutely gripping.
Okay, who's winning, Chelsea or Spurs?
Spurs have got a history of bottling it in semi-finals as well. That's the thing. Look, I think the defeat to Manchester United was such a poor performance by Chelsea that it may well be the kick up the backside they need. And I think Chelsea will eke that one by a goal, and then let's see what happens to the title race.
Man City or Arsenal?
Arsenal, I think, again, they have a real sort of point to prove in terms of having to be somewhere near successful this season. I think City at the same time, Pep's first trophy would be important, etc., etc. But Pep's record at Wembley is very good. You remember he won the Champions League with Barcelona at Wembley. He's got very happy memories there. But I can see that one going to extra time, Peter. But I think Arsenal will probably just sneak through as well. So I reckon a Chelsea-Arsenal final, which will be something to behold as well.
Okay, and I can't let you go. A boy from Wishaw, living in the safety of London. Celtic or Rangers?
Indeed, Celtic for me. Strangely enough, I think what Brendan's done has been incredible. I don't see the momentum letting up. I think the perceived injustices of last weekend with regards to the red card and the goal will fire those players up even more. And that we both know from 25, 30 years of Old Firm games that it's a dodgy decision to predict them. But I think the way Celtic are just a better team.
Okay, that's Ian's take on it. I always like to get Ian's insight into down south. He's close to a lot of the Chelsea boys. I would have been surprised had he gone against them.
You know what came to my head there, just in my head, wouldn't it be great if, and it'll never happen, but wouldn't it be great with a close league like this, the top 6 in England split, which would have given us a Chelsea Spurs game with a 3-point swing? It would have been incredible. But anyway, I think Chelsea are probably just a bit too far ahead in the league given Spurs' run in. But I think Spurs could beat them in the FA Cup. I think the Spurs are certainly a team that's coming on strong. Kane's back after injury, so he's fit. There's an element, Cahill's might be injured, well, he's certainly been sick, so he might not be fit. There's an element, there might be a few miles on the clock in the Chelsea team at the moment because he's not changed his team much or rotated it. So I think I go against Ian on the cup. I think Spurs and Man City would be the finalists for me.
Wow, lovely.
No, I'm going to stick with Chelsea. Again, I keep harping on about big time players, big time games, and Chelsea, when they come to the big time, they turn up, and I think they will turn up at the weekend.
Okay, here's a look at Europe for you guys. Champions League draw and the Europa League draw. Champions League, Real Madrid, Atletico, Monaco, Juventus, first of all. And then Ajax, Lyon and Celta Vigo against Manchester United in the Europa League. So, Ruffy, you've got another choice now. It's Atletico, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm with Atletico, and I think everybody looking at that will want a Real Madrid. I think Monaco final.
What?
Yeah, I think that's got to be a goal-scoring feast. If it was Atletico and Juventus, it would be 0-0, extra time, penalties, the lot. But I'm sticking with Atletico.
He's sticking with Atletico, who he's stuck with for all of like 12 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's a long-term relationship with Atletico, isn't it? I'll go, I still think, because of the way the semi-finals are set up, now it'd be difficult to pick a winner between the two Madrid teams, because that's going to be a really tough, tight contest. I'll go with Juventus, because I think they've been really strong, really convinced about the way they beat Barcelona. Real warriors in that team, and I think they look the likelier team to make the semi-final, to make the final.
Okay. Sunday, there's a small matter of El Clasico, Real Madrid against Barcelona as well. It's tight up there. Real Madrid have an edge and a game in hand, Ruffy. Do they win this one?
Yeah, I think home advantage, and they're winning games, whereas Barcelona aren't, so I'm going to go for a home win.
Yeah, I think Real Madrid are strong in La Liga. I think they'll win La Liga, and they'll come out unscathed on Sunday at least. By that I mean they'll come out without getting beat. I think they might just win.
Yep. It's been a good old show getting opinion and of course, well, opinion on 99% of stuff, and then just a bit of flag waving from Ruffy. I must apologise to all and sundry who were hoping for a balanced view on that Hibs Aberdeen game. Maybe we'll prize it out of him tomorrow when he has to assess it by the time we come on air. Anyway, thanks to Hugh McDonald as ever. Thanks to Alan Ruff. Both will be back with us tomorrow, 2 o'clock. STV, join us if you can. 4 hours. Gordon Smith will also be here to provide us with a great insight into the stats of all the games, and we'll keep you up to date with all the goals as well. Remember, enjoy your football. It's only a game. Our thoughts with Ugo Ekiog's family, gone too soon at the age of just 44. Good night.